Hey Dumblies, it's David Desai. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to get into 7 Fates, really talk about it, and why some armies are really mad over this release, and the story they read. I also want to talk about V and him posting a sweet kiss on IG, and some people thinking it's gross, but I have thoughts. So, hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on, grab the Dumblin, Teespooling mug merch, and let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the comic 7 Fates. I do want to clarify, I believe through my own fault and from what people are saying online, it appeared that 7 Fates was a live show or a drama or anything like that, but no, it is a web comic and something you can read. And it's an animation of the boys, and not even really of the boys, because the characters do not have the boys' real names. This was obviously done to avoid controversy, so whatever happens in the story doesn't get associated with the boys' real names. So i.e. if there's a murder, you can't be like so-and-so member killed someone. By the way, there'll be no major spoilers here. I am going to quote maybe one part of the comic so I can explain today's issue, but everything else I am saying is not necessarily part of the comic, so if you haven't read it, that is okay, you're safe. But the trailers are out, and you can see that the boys are playing the characters in the trailer, but they are not playing the characters in the comic in any way. Jungkook and Suga do have an OST for it, so that is something that they are more involved in and something that directly ties to them. It is currently available to read, and people were mostly very excited and happy about this. They were excited that BTS was creating something so different and unique for an artist to do, and even saying how much diversity they have. There was a small controversy of whether they should have even done that. One of the biggest ones that Big Hit addressed was them even doing anything with Wattpad and the fandom not wanting them to. A more recent one was to tell BTS to not even be doing webtoons, but to go back to do music. This also fed into how angry some fans were over this comic. Apparently during an interview with James Corden, Taehyung had mentioned how they don't live like singers but entertainers, meaning that a lot of what they do isn't even music but more so to entertain. So things like creating videos and photos and even what they post on IG recently. However, Taehyung did not seem upset over this fact. When you sign up to be a K-pop idol, you know that the job entails way more than just singing. A singer can just sit there and only sing, never make TV appearances, not even dance, but just sing. However, they won't get very big. A big part of the job in entertainment is to entertain and appear where you're asked to appear. Being on the James Corden show and doing the fun segments is part of being in the industry. Shows like Run BTS and In the Soup, which have nothing to do with music, just their daily life, are all a part of the job they signed up to do, which by the way, you can watch all of that with me over on Patreon, link down below. Now, once the comic drops and people were reading through it, there was an issue with one of the characters. There was a quote, and the quote talked about tattoos. It was referring to RM's character, I believe, but talked about how tattoos made it appear the character came from a shady background. There's a lot of screenshots online of this, but I'm not entirely sure of this, as it might have been taken out of context. People were violently upset at the company, which I want to reiterate, the company is BTS. Nothing with BTS's name or face on it does not at least go through BTS and talked about through them first. At this point, they don't have to do anything they don't want to do, and I think they know everything that is being said about them and have some approval rights. Clearly, Jungkook did not have a problem with this line or any issue with it, and I am sick of seeing this. Unless the artist comes out themselves and says this was disgusting of them to do, you can assume that they don't have a problem with it. Like, don't act like you own the boys and you need to protect them from a company they own. Because people who act this obsessive are the same people who are just one step from becoming a stalker fan, or one step from, let's say, BTS themselves doing something they don't like and then running a hate campaign against one of the members in BTS. Because there's no middle ground. Everything is either so amazing you die for them, or they're so bad that you need to protest and curse them out. I want to come to the defense of BTS and the company by saying that the description or stereotype of tattoos has always been to describe someone who has had a shady background. Is that okay? I'm not at liberty to say, trying to stay neutral. But it is in a lot of literature, and it's very much the conception, while maybe a misconception, it is believed to be that stereotype in Korea, which is why it's censored and stuff. The comic could also be translated weirdly in English, so translation can be a problem. However, when you are the casting director and casting someone who is supposed to be a shady character, you're likely not going to cast someone who is clean shaven, looks very well put together, and is probably going to be someone with piercings and tattoos. Not saying you can't have piercings or tattoos and still be well put together, but you get the point. However, I find it interesting that no one has a problem with the entire rest of the story, but armies will hyper focus on one line and what that one line means, and then interpret or twist what that one line means and the intentions. If every single person had to think about every line and every word that came out of their mouth and make sure that every word doesn't get misconstrued or misinterpreted and that every line and every word is a stroke of genius, it would be impossible to live. Sometimes a sentence, a word, a title even is just that and is not supposed to be much more. Take the whole comic as the whole comic and the whole context of it, and not just the context of the comic, but take in context of the culture as well. There's obviously going to be big cultural differences in comics. It doesn't mean they hate Jungkook or his tattoos, but just that more Korean people reading it are going to understand and relate to the stereotype. If you find yourself getting really mad at one line or sentence, take a breath and go to try to understand why it was said and if you understand the whole context rather than just sitting there and writing an essay. It's difficult sometimes with K-pop and the American entertainment industry all mixed in one because both of them have misunderstandings and big differences that to understand you need to pull the curtain back a bit, which is exactly why I started doing these commentary videos. I've been in the industry for over 10 years now, doing interviews, editing for big YouTubers and shows, and can have some insight that may be helpful to understand the full context of things. I'm glad that the boys are taking a break and getting to enjoy the time offline and hopefully not looking at this sort of drama that exists. Taehyung recently posted his story. I don't think he deleted it. I think it was just past 24 hours, so it disappeared. And you know, with Taehyung, you gotta clarify because he'd be deleting things. But he posted a moment where we got to see him and his dog Yeontan playing together. He was asking Yeontan for high fives and stuff, and it was very cute. I think ARMYs were so happy about this because Taehyung previously mentioned how Yeontan wasn't exactly the healthiest and has a breathing problem. And seeing him appear healthy and well in this clip and being happy is something that we are glad Taehyung kind of addressed here and updated for us about. We're also happy to see Taehyung spend time with Yeontan and bonding more. Also, those moments are so beyond cute and I can't even comprehend this. The fact that Yeontan knows these tricks like a high five and all that, it's so adorable. Taehyung is such a good owner, let alone someone who is very good at training their dog. You can tell that Taehyung also did probably most, if not all, of the training himself, as Yeontan is very comfortable with Taehyung and obviously loves him. Other people online were talking about how quote-unquote gross it was to kiss Yeontan on the mouth, which is what Taehyung did here, or appeared to have been doing. First of all, we can't tell if it was a direct kiss, but Taehyung put a treat in his own mouth and then fed it to Yeontan. It was very cute. And a lot of dog owners do this. I don't see this as weird or whatever. Taehyung probably takes such good care of Yeontan, cleans him, even cleans his mouth, so there is no worry of that sort of thing. He probably receives the best care. And since Taehyung is at home now with nothing to do, he probably spends most of his time with Yeontan and knows exactly where he has been, so there is no concern of dirtiness or anything like that. I know once everything starts back up again, Taehyung won't be spending too much time with Yeontan, which won't be too long before that happens. I assume by February, BTS will be back in the dance studio rehearsing for their songs and learning what they'll be doing on stage. Singers like to do little skits and speeches during their show, and that is often rehearsed sometimes. But once that starts back up again, I do fear Yeontan might miss Taehyung, so I am so glad that they are getting to re-know each other after a while and hang out a lot more. Yeontan's probably like, I love seeing Taehyung so much lately. Let me know what you think, and if you want to see more K-pop reaction videos, go to my Patreon, link below. I can't post them here due to copyright, but you can get all sorts of reaction videos and requests. It's a great way to support the channel even more if you want to. Thank you so much for this lovely comment right here. I love you so much. There will be some videos that will pop up on screen at the end of this video, so click on one of those. I'll see you over there. Bye.